All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to my introductory video to Europe in Golf. I am the Flying Pig. Also, my real name is Diego. And I'm making this video because I wanted to effectively archive this game session that I am now having with Andrew Harding, who I think many Europe and Golf people, the community, are well aware that he's actually one of the better players. So I wanted to make a video and actually record this session to see where do I stand in the community. Am I the best player in the community? Can I beat Andrew Harding? So that's what we're going to find out. So a little bit of background. I've been a World War II nut since middle school. I am now 24 years old, and I've been basically studying World War II for about 10 years, more or less. And so in that time frame, I've studied everything from aircraft to naval battles to ground campaigns, and I'm trying to figure out exactly how deep does the rabbit hole go. And to this day, I feel that there's a lot about World War II that I still don't fully understand. And whether or not I choose to actually pursue a career in military history is something that I will find out, I think, in this next decade of my life. But with all that said, naturally, if you're like me and you like to study military history, if you're one of those people who was watching, documentaries on the History Channel, you eventually find yourself exploring the board games quite a bit. Um, so with that said, I explored Axis and Allies. That game was the first real game that I got my hands on. Shout out to my middle school friend, Patrick Merkel, who actually got me into the game. I remember going to his house, and the first time we played, we probably started around maybe 6, 7 p.m. We ate, we went out, ate, and then came back. And then we didn't finish until around, well, about 6, 7 a.m. in the morning. So we had a really fun time. The game blew my mind just on how deep the strategy and operational and to some degree the tactical nature of warfare is all about. Um, and one thing that caught my attention when playing Axis and Allies was when we played, the Soviet Union actually conquered Norway. And if you're someone who studies a lot of history, you eventually ask yourself, well, why didn't the Soviet Union conquer Norway? And it was at that moment that I started to begin to recognize that even though Axis and Allies was by far the most detailed board game I ever played up until then, that there was still a lot more to be addressed or explored when it comes to describing World War II in a detailed manner through a board game. To this day, I still don't understand how the developers of these board games are able to get their information because these developers put a lot of effort in making these games really historically attention to detail. I'm not simply talking about a board game that basically replaces the checker pieces with tank pieces. I'm really talking about the board games that put a lot of effort into that historical flavor, historical authenticity, historical context, and we could even say historical accuracy. And so again, that's something that right now I'm exploring. Perhaps in the future, that will be something that I will attempt myself. Again, I don't really know, but I just love the scientific approach and the historical analysis that goes behind figuring out exactly how do you model World War II. I think it's an educational experience that to some degree has been not only a fun gameplay experience for myself, but also an educational one because World War II is such a big human event, and even in 2020, a lot of the technology, a lot of the buildings and infrastructure that we have throughout the world are still remnants of World War II. So I think it's all very fascinating. But not to make too long of a video and make too much of a rant, I eventually came across European Golf. In my eyes, it was a step up to Axis and Allies, simply because both games kind of try to cover the entire war in one single effort. There are many games out there that I've seen that only cover individual battles. but I'm more interested in the bigger picture, the macro scale. So the next game on the list that my friend and I are going to explore is the Eurofront series. We love the block mechanism because of the fog of war element and because how each block represents an actual core, or in the case of the Soviet Union, a Soviet army. And we just love that, you get a kind of a volumetric, positional, physical sense of where what's the composition of an army, what's the distribution of the army and what's the density of the army because it was constantly changing. So with all that said and done, European Golf is arguably my favorite game at the moment, because it's a very simple game. It is a game that you can play over a weekend, and it has a lot of attention to detail. So I'm really excited for this game with Andrew Harding because, again, he has a very interesting playing style. His playing style is very different from my own. We don't probably play the same at all. And so I'm really excited to explore more of that fog of war element. That's something that I've been missing out in my solo analysis style playthroughs, because, well, you can't really play yourself, so to speak. So my sessions are usually more laid back. I just try to analyze a battle here or there. But playing with Andrew Harding, I'm really going to get to play a full war. The competitive element is there as well, so we're going to play to win. And what's really special about this playthrough scenario, which I'm going to get into in my next video, is I've introduced a number of new rules to the game. And these rules are not necessarily all my own. I have to give a lot of credit to people in the community, in the forums that were coming up with these rules. All I've really done is essentially format them in a neat way. I threw in maybe one rule that is my own, but practically all the other additional rules are rules that other people were making. But the idea here is to get European golf all the more historically precise, all the more historically authentic, because I think, as many of the experts in European golf know, there was a few loopholes in the game design. It is nothing to say negative about the game itself. It's only to say that at the end of the day, no model is perfect. So with that said, I'm going to wrap up this video here. I hope my audio was good, much better this time than my last attempt. But nevertheless, I look forward to this scenario. We're going to get into the analysis. Maybe if anyone watches these videos, you guys can actually give me some live feedback on what I should do next to outmaneuver Andrew Harding. So thanks for tuning in, and I will see you in the next video.